The word of Yahweh that came unto Hosea the son of Beri in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam the son of Joash, king of Israel. The beginning of the word of Yahweh by Hosea. And Yahweh said to Hosea, Go, take unto thee a wife of whoredoms, and children of whoredoms, for the land hath committed great whoredom, departing from Yahweh. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, which conceived and bare him a son. And Yahweh said unto him, Call his name Jezreel, for yet a little while, and I will avenge the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu, and will cause to cease the kingdom of the house of Israel. And it shall come to pass at that day that I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. And she conceived again and bare a daughter. And God said unto him, Call her name Loruhamah, for I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. But I will have mercy upon the house of Judah, and will save them by Yahweh their God, and will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battle, by horses, nor by horsemen. Now when she had weaned Loruhamah, she conceived and bare a son. Then said God, Call his name Lo-Ami, for ye are not my people, and I will not be your God. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, Ye are the sons of the living God. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together, and appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel. Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahweh Shai, Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahweh Shai, Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahweh Shai, Barakati Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai Ba, Recha HaKodash, Kof the Pa Arath, Hawad Wahaloyim, Rabatum Yadla, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai Ba, Recha HaKodash. And what I just said in the Lashon Kodash being the ancient Paleo-Hebrew, or in other words, the true biblical Hebrew for holy tongue or language. And what I just said is, all glory, honor, and praises abundantly and continuously to our power, Yahweh, the true name of our Heavenly Father, who the world ignorantly and incorrectly calls God, and the name of his only begotten Son, our Savior, our Messiah, our Deliverer, Yahweh Shai, HaMashiach, who the world ignorantly and incorrectly calls Jesus Christ, in, or in other words, through the Holy Spirit. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and respect to the brothers teaching and pushing this truth out the four corners of the earth, to the hopeful elect, the 144,000 and the 1/3, as well as the rest of the elect scattered abroad amongst the heathen nations to the four corners of the earth, east, north, south, and west. To you I say, Shalom. This is your brother Ra'ib Tazadakwa coming back at you again, all through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, with another lesson, Yahweh Ratazah. It is going to be edifying and encouraging for you Achim and any Achwaf that may be listening and or watching. Yahweh being the true name of the Heavenly Father, Ratazah being the ancient Paleo-Hebrew for willing, or wills or willing, Yahweh willing, okay? Oftentimes you'll see it in the scriptures as Lord willing, but the Lord will be in all caps. All right. And specifically in the Old Testament. The Heavenly Father's name is in the New Testament, but it's you kind of just have to recognize that it's there because they don't capitalize his name as it is in the Old Testament. But the Heavenly Father's name is in the New Testament as well. All right, so Yahweh Ratazah means Yahweh willing, Lord willing. Okay, Yahweh willing, to be specific. Okay, but you'll see Lord willing in the scriptures. All right, because the Heavenly Father's name has been replaced with Lord in all caps, specifically in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, it's going to be Lord, lowercase. All right, and Achim, just so that everybody knows, Achim is brothers, Achwath is sisters. Okay, so edifying and encouraging to any brothers and sisters that may be listening and or watching. Now you see the lesson series that's on the screen here, and I'm coming down to the end of this, subject to the Spirit. I'm doing the last thing that needs to be done right now, which is breaking down Acts the 10th chapter to show and prove that Cornelius was indeed an Israelite. And then part 10, which you see at the top of the screen, I have not put a thumbnail on it yet or a title, but the title is going to have somewhere in there that Hakah and Hasad are wrong, and then something about Cornelius being an Israelite. And in that part 10, okay, again, it doesn't have a title yet. The title is yesterday's date or today's date, whatever it is, December 5th, 2025. Yeah, I think it's today's date because I finished it late last night, early in the morning, right? So it's December 5th is most likely today's date, I would imagine, because I don't know. That's why, right? But I'm pretty sure it is because I finished it early in the morning last night before I laid down. So, but in any event, that's it right there. And before I take this one and premiere it, that one will be premiered. So if you're watching this one, then that one will already be live. And I would encourage you to check that one out, because in that one, I featured a couple of video clips. And one of them is that Kia commercial you see there. And I may have been mistaken. I thought there was a series of commercials, Kia commercials, where Blake Griffin played a Roman soldier named Cornelius. Okay, Blake Griffin being a so-called black man, although he looks mixed, genetically he is mixed. His father is a Haitian, a dark brown Haitian. You see the former brother Hakah on the thumbnail beneath, and you see he's brown skinned, and former brother Hasad. I say former brothers not because they're no longer amongst the living, but they're former brothers because of the damnable heresy that they're now pushing, and their doctrine. Like I said, you can liken false doctrine to leaven, which it is likened to in the scriptures. That's why we have the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and we purged out the leaven and all that for that 7 days. And so, leaven, false doctrines are likened unto leaven, but you can also liken false doctrines to cancer. And if you know anything, leaven spreads, right? Of course. But cancer brings out a different aspect of the metaphor, because cancer will typically be localized, right? But then cancer that is localized can metastasize. And what that means is now whereas before it was localized, cancer being likened unto, or I should say false doctrines being likened unto cancer, whereas before it was localized, once it metastasizes, it like breaks free and it spreads throughout the whole body. Okay. And so typically when somebody says, when somebody has cancer and they go into a doctor and all that, and the doctor says the cancer has metastasized, typically that means you're done. You're done. Okay. Outside of a divine act of the Most High or some extremely rare turn of events, you're done. Okay. Nothing else more we can do for you. We're going to send you home. We're going to give you some drugs so that you can feel good and enjoy your last few days, maybe weeks. Highly unlikely that it's months, but it could possibly be months, right? But days, weeks, or maybe months. Okay, enjoy it with your loved ones and your family and your friends as best you can, because you're done. Okay, there's nothing else that can be done, because once that cancer metastasizes and starts to spread all throughout the body, it's going to take you out pretty quickly. Well, again, we're likening the false doctrines to cancer. And the false doctrines, the cancerous false doctrines of former brothers Hakah and Hasad, the Genesis brothers, their false doctrine has metastasized, and now it's spreading all throughout their ministry. Whereas before, they were off on some points, but as the scripture says, a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. Okay? All right, so they were off on some things, and they did not heed correction, although the correction was provided over years by many brothers many times. Titus 3:10 says a heretic after the first and second admonition, just once, just twice, but they got many more. They got many more than that. I would say hundreds. Okay, many brothers, elders, apostles, the very men that they learned from. Okay, but they didn't heed any of that. And now here we are. The leaven of their false doctrine has spread entirely throughout. Because before they had their false doctrine, they had their leaven, but it was localized. They were still teaching a lot of things that were right, but now it's metastasized and it's spreading all throughout their doctrine. Okay. And spiritually speaking, I mean, I don't know, but that's what happens, right? So when the cancer metastasizes, your days are numbered, okay? Your days are numbered. There's pretty much nothing else that can be done for you, and they send you home and tell you to enjoy the time the best you can, and they give you some whatever they give you to help you to deal with the pain and feel good and all that, so that you can enjoy the time as best as possible. But of course, that's going to have diminishing returns because that cancer is tearing up your body. See, and so that's what's happened here with these former brothers. And so it remains to be seen what the Most High is going to do and how He's going to handle this, right? But I don't think they got long to go. I don't think they got long to go because there's a direct application there with cancer metastasizing. All right. Now, some people when the cancer metastasizes, they may have days, so others may have weeks, others may have months. Okay, I've never heard anything longer than that. Okay, so we'll see what happens with those brothers. But the false doctrines have metastasized, right? And so in here, though, in that part 10, which doesn't have a title yet, December 5th, 2025, I featured 2 clips. One clip was an elder. The elder's name is Danya Allah, and he is a contemporary with the elders and apostles of GMS, Bishop Nathaniel, what's his name, General Yohana, and others that were taught by the 7. Okay, he's a contemporary of the men that were taught by the 7. The 7 learned from Elder Bivens. The 7 learned from Elder Bivens, and then the 7 taught Elder Apostle Tahar, the other elders and apostles of GMS, and these other men, and Priest Daniela is one of them. He's a contemporary with them, and he was bringing out that Cornelius is indeed an Israelite, and from what I gather, he's just bringing that out now. And I don't know if he has been believing that for a while, but initially he didn't believe that. But now he's come around and he's done his due diligence. He's studied to show himself approved, a workman that need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. I know for a long time, he was a holdout, because as he was talking about how Cornelius is an Israelite and he was given the history and all that, he was mentioning at various points that he would often get cussed out by Elder Apostle Tahar because he wasn't seeing that Cornelius was an Israelite, because that's very important. It's very important to understand that. Right, and then he mentioned other brothers that was rebuking him and other brothers that was telling him he's got to get it. And then eventually, one day after he got told that he has to, change that doctrine about Cornelius being an Edomite, one day after he got rebuked by a brother that was rebuking him pretty much every time he saw him, one day after he got rebuked by the brother, and the rebuke was mild, it wasn't a harsh. Just because somebody rebukes you doesn't mean it's harsh. Rebukes can be mild, moderate, or harsh, right? And this brother was relatively mild with his rebukes, but he was very, very consistent with it based off of what the priest Daniela was saying. And so one day after he got rebuked, because he was tired of getting rebuked by the brother, he was tired of the brother telling me, "Hey, brother, you got to change that. You got to look into that now. You're wrong about that." He was tired of hearing it, so he looked into it, and he I don't know why it took him so long, but he did. Okay, finally he got around to it. He looked into it, and he had to see that, yes, I was wrong all this time. Cornelius is indeed an Israelite. And not only that, he brought out the history about how the 7 that learned from Elder Bivens and that taught the men that are leading the nation of Israel today. All right, the 7, they originally rejected it, but they ultimately, after a little bit of time, they eventually looked into it, and they acknowledged that they were wrong, and that yes, Cornelius is indeed an Israelite. But by the time they did that, there was already splits that had happened, right? And that was all set up by the Most High. The Most High wanted those splits to take place, and that's why it went that way. Because otherwise, they easily could have seen it when it was brought up, but the Most High didn't want them to see it quite yet. So after a little time, some splits took place, and after a little time, they all came around and acknowledged that, we know we were wrong. Elder Apostle Tahar, Elder Apostle Gabar, they were right. I believe Elder Apostle Gabar is the one that first thought it, and he spoke out loud. He was thinking out loud, and he was the one that first said it. And then Elder Apostle Tahar was in agreement with that. And then they, as a team, kind of started to push it. Is basically the way it went down. And they all had to acknowledge that, we've had splits over this and everything, but they're right. They're right. They're right. We were wrong. And so what do you do when somebody else is right and you're wrong? You acknowledge it and you make the correction and you move forward. Acknowledge it, make the correction, you move forward. And ultimately, they all pushed that. Okay, including the ones that was at the council where Elder Apostle Gabar, Elder Apostle Tahar, all the men, Elder Apostle Tahar and all the men that were with him, okay, were kicked out because they were pushing, they were basically presenting it. They hadn't really pushed it yet, but they were presenting that Cornelius was an Israelite. They were presenting a biblical case that Cornelius was an Israelite. Nobody was teaching that heathen can get salvation. I'm talking about natural born heathen. Okay, nobody was teaching that, but they were teaching that Cornelius was an Edomite, right? And so once Elder Apostle Tahar and the men that were with him, starting first and foremost with Elder Apostle Gabar, once they started to submit for consideration that Cornelius was actually an Israelite, it was rejected and they were kicked out. Okay, and then the split took place, but then they ultimately went back and looked at it, and everybody agreed and acknowledged, including the men that were pivotal, and played a crucial or played a significant role in kicking out Elder Apostle Tahar. The men that came against that doctrine very vehemently, even they ultimately came around and was like, you know what, they're right. Okay, for example, the elders and apostles of Great Millstone will often mention Bishop Nathaniel being on that council, and Bishop Nathaniel being one of the ones that had them kicked out. And then fast forward, I don't know how many years it was, but I don't think it was that long. Fast forward some time, and then even Bishop Nathaniel teaches and has been teaching. IUIC teaches that, and correctly, that Cornelius is an Israelite, not an Edomite, not a natural born heathen. Okay, so Cornelius is an actual Israelite, and so we played that clip of Priest Daniela going over some of the history and talking about how he ultimately had to come to that acknowledgement because he was one of the last holdouts. Out of his own mouth, he said he was one of the last ones to come around and see it because he didn't want to see it. He didn't want to see it. His loyalty was in the wrong place at first, but Barak Adi Yahweh Shem Shai, he's now seen it. And he acknowledges that, and he's corrected that error. He's corrected that flaw, including having his loyalty be misplaced. Because our loyalty is to Yahweh Bahashim Shai. Our loyalty is to Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. Our loyalty is to this truth. First and foremost, any other loyalties have to come from that. Okay, because that's the supreme loyalty, Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. Okay, this truth, right? So I played that because he brought out a lot of good history, and it was a good testimony of being willing to acknowledge something that's wrong and actually considering it first and foremost, doing your due diligence, and then acknowledging it, despite how, no matter how long it's been that you were wrong, no matter how, and publicly acknowledging it, okay, and encouraging others to do the same, okay, like Malak Dabadah said, purge me with hyssop and I will be clean. Wash me and I'll be whiter than snow. And then you read further down in the Psalm and he says, then will I teach transgressors your ways. Okay, so you got to purge out the leaven out of your own doctrine, and then go and teach others. Take the beam out of your own eye, and then help your brother to get the speck out of his eye. See, and so that's what Priest Daniela was doing, and that's beautiful. That was a good example. That's an excellent example, and it's a testimony. So I played that, and then I played this Kia commercial here. I thought there was another one, and I said there was another one. I couldn't find it. If there is, I couldn't find it. So maybe there's not. Of course, I haven't seen these commercials in a long time, right? So maybe I just thought there was another one. I don't know if there's another one or not. If I found another one, I was going to play that one, and I played the other one last night, but I could not find another one. Of course, I didn't want to spend like that long looking for it. But in this, Blake Griffin, being an Israelite man, a so-called black man, his father is darker than Hakah on the left side of the screen. His father is pretty dark, like a dark chocolate brown, all right? And his mother looks like a so-called white woman. Now, whether she's an Edomite or not is inconsequential. She may or may not be of the nation of Esau Edom. She may be a daughter of Zion, okay? Just looking like an Edomite woman, right? It doesn't really matter for this topic. His mother looks like a so-called white woman, but his father is very dark brown, okay? A Haitian, okay, which would be the tribe of Levi, Loya in the Hebrew, right? And he came out genetically mixed, so that's why genetically he's mixed, and he looks, he doesn't look very much like either one of his parents for that reason, right? You can see some facial, you can see some similarities, right? But he looks mixed. He looks like a blend of his two parents. But that's because you can mix genetics, but bloodlines are always pure. Bloodlines are always pure, passed down through the father. We proved that, okay? And you can prove that biblically, okay? And I'm not going to prove it now, though, but bloodlines are always pure, passed down through the fathers. Go to Numbers, the 1st chapter, one of the best places to prove that, but there's lots of places you can go, okay? And so the blood flowing through Blake Griffin's veins is the blood of a so-called black man, okay, a dark-skinned so-called black man, which is his father, who is a Haitian, and so the same blood flowing through his father's veins is flowing through his veins, okay. And Blake Griffin has married a so-called white woman, and that so-called white woman has borne him children, and I don't know how many and whatnot, but I know one son in particular, and that son now, I think he's in his teens or something like that now. And I'm sure he is. Yeah, he's in his teens or something like that now. Maybe even approaching his late teens, getting ready to turn 20 or something. But he looks exactly like with Blake, you can see he's mixed. But with his son, he looks pure white. He looks pure like a so-called white. He looks pure Edomite. Now, is he? Absolutely not. He has the same blood flowing through his veins as his father, Blake Griffin, who has the same blood flowing through his veins as his father, which is a Haitian, a very dark brown Haitian too. Okay? All right? And so bloodlines are always pure, passed down through the father, and it has nothing to do with genetics. Genetics and bloodlines are completely and totally separate. Okay? You can have someone of any nation, you can have someone of a particular nation looking like any other nation after several generations. All it takes is a minimum of two. Blake Griffin is an example of that. But a lot of times it'll take three. It just kind of depends on the facial feature. It just kind of depends on the physical characteristics. Okay, sometimes it'll take 3 generations, but sometimes it'll only take 2. And Blake Griffin's son is an example of that. Okay, because you would never imagine that his grandfather was a very dark brown Haitian man. But that's his grandfather, okay? And you wouldn't expect that Blake Griffin would have a dark brown father either. But you might say, well, okay, I kind of see that. I guess his mother must be very, very light. Yeah, she looks like an Edomite, right? So Blake Griffin, what I'm telling you is Blake Griffin is a so-called black man. All right, he's just genetically mixed, right? And they have a so-called black man, Blake Griffin, playing. They have a so-called black man, Blake Griffin, playing a Roman soldier, because just like in the military of modern day Rome 2.0, okay, America, Babylon the Great, which is the capital city of the revived Roman Empire, just like in the modern day Roman military, which is the American military, you have so-called black men in the military. I was one of them. Okay, you got a lot of so-called black. You got a lot of Israelites in the military of America, Babylon the Great. Okay, so-called Latinos and Hispanics, Native Americans, Seminole Indians, everything. You even got other heathen nations. Okay, non-Israelite heathen, actually other heathens in the military of Rome 2.0. So, in that same manner and fashion, you had Israelites, so-called black men, and other nations too in the Roman military. Yes, predominantly it was Edomites, but you had men of the various different nations that were subjugated by the Roman military. You had some of them in the Roman military as well. So just because it tells you that Cornelius was a centurion, that doesn't mean he was an Edomite. Not at all. It doesn't mean he was an Edomite any more than when you read that a U.S. soldier did this, that, there, and another. That means that that's a so-called white man. Okay, probably, but in a lot of cases, it's not. A lot of cases, it's not. More often than not, it would be, but in a lot of cases, it's not. It may be the case in like 60, 65, maybe 70% of the time, or maybe that's too much. Might be just like 55% of the time. Okay. And then maybe like 45% of the time, it's going to be, a non so-called white man. Okay. Maybe like 25, maybe like if you add up the so-called Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, Seminole Indians, and so-called blacks, it might be an Israelite man, maybe 25, 30% of the time. Who knows? We got a lot of Israelites in the U.S. military, the revived Roman Empire military. And that was the case back then. Cornelius was a so-called black man, and he looked more like Cornelius's father than he did like Cornelius. Okay, but nevertheless, that's why I misspoke. He looked more like Blake Griffin's father. I called him Cornelius. He looked more like, maybe he was Cornelius. Who knows? Reincarnation is biblical, by the way. Matthew, the 11th chapter, verses 13, 14, and 15 makes that plain. Go read it. Okay? And maybe that was a slip of the tongue in the spirit. The Most High had me say that. Who knows? We don't know. I don't know. Right? But Cornelius actually looked more like Blake Griffin's father than he does like him. Okay? But nevertheless, Blake Griffin fits the bill because he is a so-called black man, despite his mixed genetics. All right? So I played that in there, and in there, they made it very, very prominent because they not only do they have a so-called black man playing a Roman soldier, but they have a so-called black man playing a Roman soldier, and of all the Roman names they could have chosen, there's lots of Roman names that are more popular than Cornelius. You got Maximus and other names like that. You know, I'm just going to throw some stuff out there. Spartacus. You got all these other names that sound very, very Roman. Okay? They didn't choose any of those. They chose Cornelius. So not only do they have a so-called black man playing a Roman centurion, a Roman soldier, and you see that he's in charge. It's a centurion. He's in charge, and you look at all the men he has around him, and he's in control. He's giving them orders. They're cheering what he says. He's the officer. Okay, you can see that helmet he's got on. Okay, not only do they have a so-called black man playing a Roman soldier, but they have a so-called black man playing a Roman soldier that is an officer over others. Let's go with a centurion. Not only do they have a so-called black man playing a Roman soldier that is an officer that's a centurion. All right, I know that part is a little, but we're going to go with it. Okay, his name is Cornelius. Not only do they have a so-called black man playing a Roman soldier who is an officer, who is a centurion, whose name is Cornelius. Not only that, but they very, very prominently, multiple times, make sure you know his name is Cornelius. What are you getting at, right? What I'm getting at is that the elites that control this world, the elites that control, the media, they know that Cornelius was a so-called black man. That's why they had a so-called black man play him. And that's why they had his name be Cornelius. And not only that, that's why they made sure they kept it in your ears very prominently. Okay? Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and play it. You'll see what I'm saying, right? And in there, they also mentioned the barbarians, which were Israelites. Okay, because they put the truth right in front of your face because they know you don't know. They know. That's why it's set up this way, but you don't know. Okay? Cornelius was indeed an Israelite, a so-called black man. Now, while Blake Griffin checks that box, he is a so-called black man, he doesn't really look like it. Well, Cornelius did. Okay? Cornelius did look like a so-called black man. Okay? Now, Salakia. Well, I could play it here. There was a certain man in Caesarea. Let me see here. That's the clip that I played with Priest Daniela. Okay, now let me go ahead. It's just somewhere, probably about here. And we'll just leave it.
My brothers, today we fight for our land, our families, and our honor.
Cut! Blake, what are you doing?
The name is Cornelius.
No, but
You notice how he kept the see, this is how they making it very, very prominent. Because look, when the director goes cut and he speaks to the actor does not they don't stay in character. When the director goes cut and he speaks to the actor does not insist that the director call him by his name that he's playing. See, that doesn't happen. So why is it happening here? It's happening here because they're making it very, very prominent to make sure it really, really stands out that this so-called black man is playing a character that's a Roman centurion that's name is Cornelius. They're making sure you don't miss that his name is Cornelius, and they're going to do it twice.
My brothers, today we fight for our land, our families, and our honor.
Cut! Blake, what are you doing?
The name is Cornelius.
No, but it's very moving. But
The name is Cornelius.
no, but it's very moving. But Cornelius, where is?
The name is Cornelius.
No, but it's very moving. But Cornelius, where is your chariot?
And you notice that the director acquiesced, but I'm trying not to use that big word. The director fell in line. The director gave in. The director went right along with it. Okay? Why? Again, because see, these things don't happen. Okay, but this is a commercial. But why in this Kia commercial are they going out of their way to make the name Cornelius so prominent? Because they're putting it in your face that Cornelius was an Israelite. They know it, but you don't know it. But now you do. That's why it's written this way.
The name is Cornelius.
No, but it's very moving. But Cornelius, where is?
The name is Cornelius.
No, but it's very moving. But Cornelius, where is your chariot?
There is no finer ride in all the land. My Optima has aggressive styling and an interior fit for Caesar himself.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say he is playing this. Yeah, he's playing this into. See, they're telling you right there, man. Okay, you see all those men around him. You know, it's more than you can't see them all, right? But it's more than like 20. This is a centurion, man. Blake Griffin is playing a Roman centurion that is a Roman soldier that is an officer that's a centurion, and he's a so-called black man, and he's over these men, and his name is Cornelius. Okay?
You do realize this is a period piece? You're about to fight a horde of barbarians from 60.
And the barbarians were Israelites. They putting a lot of stuff right in front of your face. But if you don't know it, then you just think it's just entertainment. Okay, they just threw some stuff in there. No, it's all intentional.
In AD.
Look, man, I'm not here for a history lesson, okay? I'm here to win.
No need to keep the act anymore because you've already emphasized what needed to be emphasized, which is his name is Cornelius. Now he goes to his normal voice, and then it goes back and it finishes with a lot of humor and fun, right? But that's it, okay? And we don't need to keep that anymore. So that's what we covered there. And once we got through those two, we started on Acts 10, which we're going to continue on tonight. Oh, the reason why I opened up with this Hosea 1. I read the whole chapter, but I want to focus in on 10 and 11 because it ties into what's happening during the time of Acts, the 10th chapter. Okay, I got all of this right. I'll just point out a couple of things here. Loru Hama, which means no mercy. Okay, for I will no more have mercy. Okay, La'ah is probably pronounced La'ah Hasad, right? But it's hard to say. The Hebrew word for mercy is Hasad, right? And then the Hebrew word for La'ah is for no is La'ah. Okay, but anyway, no mercy, right? Talking about taking away the house of Israel. No mercy upon the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away, right? House of Israel, taken away. Northern kingdom, done, right? Which Hosea was of the tribe of Issachar, right? He was a northern kingdom prophet. Hosea was, okay? And you would say his name in the Hebrew, Hawashai, which means deliver, okay? Hawashai in the Hebrew, all right? And so he was of the northern kingdom, and he was told to prophesy. He was told, name your daughter Lo Ruhama, which probably in the Hebrew would be La'ach Hasad, which means no mercy. I'm not going to have mercy on the house of Israel anymore. I'm going to utterly take them away. House of Israel, no mercy, utterly taken away. Okay? But I will have mercy upon the house of Judah and will save them, so on and so forth, right? Now when she had weaned, because the Assyrian kingdom came up against the northern kingdom and took them down. But when the Assyrian kingdom tried to come up against the southern kingdom, they had limited success, but they ultimately failed because the Most High fought for us, right? And so that's what that's all talking about. Then he had his whorish wife had a son, and he said call his son's name Lo Ami, which in the Hebrew that would be La'ah Aimya. La'ah Aimya. Let me see something here. Yeah, right. Yeah, so La'ah Hasad and La'ah Aimya. La'ah is no, again, like I already told you. Aim is people, Yah is my. So La'ah Aimya, not my people. For ye are not my people. Okay, so I guess they're not his people anymore. And I will not be your God. Okay, so I guess the Most High is not our power anymore. Yet, no, that's not the end of the story. Yet, you're so mad at somebody, it's like, we ain't friends anymore. But, that's your best friend. You've known them forever. You were born in the same hospital on the same day. Y'all been best friends forever. You're so mad at them. You ain't my friend anymore. But, you cool down. You settle down. They come to you. They apologize. You apologize. You didn't really mean it. You just was really, really mad. That's kind of what and during that time, maybe for like a week or two or maybe a month or two, maybe, it really looks like you're not. For a period of time, maybe even a year or two. It really looks like, but you love him. That's your friend, So ultimately you come back together. That's the deal here. Okay? Only on a much higher level. Yet the number, that's why it says yet. So even though that's the case, even though the Heavenly Father is saying, Lo Ruhama, La'ah Hasad, Lo Ami, La'ah Aimya, even though he's saying that, yet, or in other words, still, or in other words, even still, despite that, yet the number of the sons of Israel, the whole nation, okay, northern and southern. But wait a minute, didn't he say that he was gonna utterly take away the northern kingdom, the house of Israel? Yep, he did say that. But I told you, man, this always temporary. Okay, so yet the number of the sons of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, and that's the whole nation, northern and southern. Okay, well, no, right. I think it's just the southern kingdom because he said again, the northern kingdom will be utterly taken away. That sounds pretty permanent to me. All right, well, let's just keep reading. Yet the number of the sons of Israel shall be as the, is that the whole nation or is that just the southern kingdom? Right? Shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered, and it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people. There, this is being fulfilled now. There it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God. Ye are Yasha'Allah, which is literally what it means to be an Israelite man. When you say I'm an Israelite man, it means I am a son of God. I am a prince of the power. I am a son of God. That's literally what Yasha'Allah, which is Hebrew for Israel. That's literally what it means. Okay? And you look up Israel here and it doesn't give you the right meaning. Israel is Did I miss it? Here it is, yeah. Israel, it doesn't tell you the right meaning here. Israel is 3 Hebrew words. Yah, Shar, Allah. It's a phrase. Yah, Shar, Allah. Yah, you see that first character, you got to ignore all the vowel points. Okay, because that was all added later on so that they can retrofit their manufactured, fake, phony, false, not Hebrew language onto the Hebrew. Okay, and write it with Hebrew characters. That's why they had to add those points and dots and stuff and squigglies and stuff. Okay, not that first character reading from right to left. That's an actual Assyrian script character, and it's Yah. That small character, that's Yah. Okay, and then you have Shar. Okay, all right, and then you have Allah. Okay, so and you see there it has 3. The pronunciation tells you it has 3 syllables, and it's actually each syllable is a word. Okay, now you have the Yah. And then that's that first character, the little small character. And then you have the Shar, which would be the second 2 characters reading from right to left. And then you have the Allah, which would be the last 2 characters reading from right to left. Okay? Yah is he. Shar is prince. Allah is power. He, prince, power. Put in the connecting words because we don't talk like that in English. He is the prince of the power. So you put the connecting words in and it sounds better, right? Take out prince and put in son, because that's what a prince is, the son of a king. Take out power and put in God, because most people don't go around referring to, we do, but most people don't go around referring to the Most High as power. They go around referring to him as God, because the power being referred to there is who the world will call God. So instead of he is the prince, he is the son of God, you would say, that's what you would say. Instead of saying he is the prince of the power, you would say he is the son of God. That's literally what it means. Now let me show you that, because while it doesn't get it right, see, it tells you it means God prevails. That's wrong. All right. You can look these 3 words up and see that no, God prevails. The prevail's not there. You can look these 3 words up and see that, yeah, it's he, prince, and power. Let me see what it says here for this. Oh, they don't even. Yeah, they not. Yeah, that's because they messed this all up. It's no need even clicking on it. They messed this all up. Okay. Okay. I mean, that's along the right lines. Let me see what this one is here. Yeah. Yeah, they completely ignored the he. All right, but let's go to, and we're gonna come back to that. Let's go to Israel over here. Let me see here. Let me go someplace where I know where I won't. You know how it is. You look for something and it's like, man, it's everywhere until you go looking for it, right? So let me see here. Let me see here. Here we go. Let's look here. And here in the New Testament, it breaks it down correctly. You see Israel. He shall be a prince of God. And you can take prince out and put son. Okay. Instead of saying he is the son of God or he is the prince of God, they put in, or the prince of the power, they put in shall be. Okay. Which a little bit of liberty there, but it works. But it still gets the job done. It's really, he is the prince of God, or he is the son of God, or he is the prince of the power. Okay. And so it breaks it down correctly in the New Testament, but it's wrong in the Old Testament. Okay, but you can figure it out. You just look the words up. Okay. All right. So that's literally what it means. And so that's being fulfilled now. And what have we been called here in the Americas? We've been called so-called blacks. We've been called, and you notice how often they change it. Nobody else changes. I mean, how many different terms have they called? Let's say you get some quote unquote Asians come over here. How many different labels have they slapped on so-called Asians? Let's say you get some so-called Arabs come over here. Some so-called Arabs, because the Asians are the Moabites and the Ammonites, okay? And the Arabs are the Ishmaelites, okay? But let's say you get some Arabs come over here. How many different labels have they slapped on the Arabs, okay? How many different labels have they slapped on all these other heathen nations, all these heathen nations? But when it comes to the so-called blacks, every time you turn around, we got a different label slapped on us, okay? Colored. Okay, Negroes, blacks, African Americans. I mean, how many times you going to change it? And from what when they first brought us over here, we were Hebos, which Hebos is a alteration or a mispronunciation of Hebrews. That's why we were called Hebos, because they were messing up Hebrews. They knew we were Israelites. They knew we were the Hebrew Israelites when they brought us over here and put us in slavery. And when Christopher Colon came over here to the Americas and he encountered the indigenous people here, he knew that was the Northern Kingdom. That's why he brought 5 Hebrew translators with him. Read it. Look it up. Hey, this is not a secret. He brought 5 Hebrew translators with him, and he knew about this land from 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter. Now, so here in the Americas, we're being called all these other names, including the Northern Kingdom. Okay? Wetbacks, tontos, tree monkeys, all these names, spics, all these names, all these proverbs and bywords pursuant to the curses of Deuteronomy 28. Okay, so even though we're being called everything and anything other than our name, which is Yasha Allah Israel, okay, and with regards to us being Israel, we're being told we're not Israel. You ain't the Israelites, okay. But yet the number of the sons of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered, and it shall come to pass. This is being fulfilled now in this time, that in the place where it's said unto them, and it's said unto us, wherever we're scattered, especially here in America, Babylon the Great. Here, we're being told we're everything but who we truly are. Wherever we're scattered, it's the same thing. But what does it say? In the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God. Ye are Israel. Ye are Yasha Allah. Then shall the sons of Judah, and remember we had a question when it said, yet the number of the children of Israel, the sons of Israel shall be. The question was that the whole nation? Okay, northern kingdom and southern kingdom? Or was it just the southern kingdom because the northern kingdom had been utterly destroyed? Well, verse 11 answers that question. Then shall the sons, this is the importance of the line upon line. Then shall the sons, if you don't have a line upon line, you read something like that, you'd be like, okay, well, the northern kingdom, they just done, they just gone. You line upon line and precept upon precept. Okay. Otherwise, you need to put the Bible down. You need to put it down. Then shall the sons of Judah and the sons of Israel be gathered together. When were they gathered together? Okay. Were they gathered together during the Assyrian captivity? No. I already told you. Assyrian captivity, that was just the northern kingdom. Okay. Southern kingdom didn't go into that. What about the Babylonian captivity? No, that was just the southern kingdom. Northern kingdom was already gone. Okay. What about the Medo-Persian captivity? No, only southern kingdom. Okay. Greek captivity? No, only southern kingdom. Now there was a sprinkling of the northern kingdom that stuck with the southern kingdom, but the majority went into the Assyrian captivity, and they were over here in the Americas during the time of Yahushua and the disciples. Okay, 2nd Ezra 13 again, starting about the 39th verse, 39, going down to like 47. You can read about that. Okay, so no, Greek captivity, just southern kingdom. Roman captivity, just southern kingdom. Well, my goodness, then. When in history was the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom back together after the split? Never. Well, then when's this going to be fulfilled? It's being fulfilled right now. Okay. The northern kingdom and the southern kingdom are back together right now, right here, right now, in the not so good old US of A. And that's what this that's what this prophecy is about. Okay? Because it was never fulfilled until now. Okay? Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the sons of Israel, northern kingdom, and the sons of Judah, southern kingdom, were oppressed together. This is a case where something that's a future prophecy is presented as past tense. Okay? And that happens sometimes. Okay? Another example of that is with regards to Revelation 9 and 12 and Revelation 11 and 14 with regards to the 3 woes. Okay? The 3 woes are referring to the 3 world wars, 2 of which have passed now. 1 of which has begun, but it's still in its early stages and hasn't reached its peak yet. And you'll know when it reaches its peak, because when it reaches its peaks, all the thermonuclear missiles, hypersonic and otherwise, are going to fly. All of them. Okay? Thus saith the scriptures. So it started, but it hasn't reached its peak yet, and it's still ramping up. Okay? But when it was written by John on the Isle of Patmos, like 1900, give or take, years ago, He said in Revelation 9 and 12, the first woe, world war, is past. Behold, there come 2 more woes hereafter. No, I think that it, it must have been something else, and it already happened when John wrote that, and the 2 was still coming. Well, then what happened, man? Because they must have, you just flip a couple chapters, how long does it take for John to write from Revelation 9 and 12 to Revelation 11 and 14? Because when you get to Revelation 11 and 14, so between John writing Revelation 9 and 12 and between him writing Revelation 11 and 14, how long does that take? I don't know, but it can't be too long. Between however long it took, but 15 minutes, 20 minutes, however long it took for him to write that, the second woe happened. Because at Revelation 11 and 14, it says the second woe is past, and the third woe cometh quickly. Okay? No, man, neither one of them had passed. They weren't going to happen for like 1900 years. Okay? The reason why it's written as being, even though it's a future those are future prophecies way out in the future. Okay, 2,000 years roundabout in the future. The reason why they're written as past tense is because they're written for us in this time. It's written in a manner that's going to make sense to us in this time. It's written in a manner that's going to apply in this time. Okay? The meaning and the understanding of those prophecies wasn't given back then. It wasn't needed to be written as if it was going to be understood at that time. It's written to be it's written in a manner that applies to the time that it will be understood, which is now. That's why when we wake up to the scripture, it's like, the scriptures make sense now. All this, and we're waking up. It's written for the time when we awake from sleep. It is high time to awake out of sleep. Romans 13, 11, and 12. Okay? It's written for the time that when we wake up and we now understand, because we didn't understand before. So now that we understand and now that we read it, when were we going to wake up? When was the understanding of the scriptures going to be given to us? After the second woe, but before the third woe. Okay? When were the seals broken? When was this understanding given back to us? When did the Great Awakening begin? Okay? 1969, 1970. Okay? Was that before or after the first woe? After. Was that before or after the Second World War? After. Was that before or after the Third World War? Before. Okay? So that's why it's written that way. And this is another example of that. See? Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the sons of Israel and the sons of Judah were oppressed together. That's now. And all that, because it's never happened since the split. Okay? It didn't happen during the dark ages, the medieval ages. All right, the Middle Ages, I meant to say. That's why I was having a hard time with it. Also known as the Byzantine Empire. Okay, it didn't happen during the Roman captivity. All right, it didn't happen during the it started to happen during the no, it didn't really happen. During, what do you call that? You could kind of maybe say it clipped the back end of the Renaissance. It clipped the back end of that. Okay, maybe depending on how you date it, right? But it happened in this time. Okay. Especially once the Southern Kingdom, particularly when the Southern Kingdom was brought over here to the Americas. Because once they got over here to the Americas, the Northern Kingdom was already here. That's when it began to be fulfilled. Okay? It's talking about this time now. And we're here. All the tribes are here in America, Babylon the Great, in captivity to the Edomites together. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the sons of Israel and the sons of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. See, so when we go back over to here, this is being fulfilled now, okay? That in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living power. Then shall the sons of Judah, okay, Southern Kingdom, and the sons of Israel, Northern Kingdom, be gathered together. And so that right there proves to you that this is the Northern Kingdom as well. Which is proving that what I said is true. That this was, I keep wanting to say permanent, that this was temporary. Even though he said he's going to utterly take them away, it's temporary. Okay? It was never permanent. This was all the Most High's plan from the beginning. And so what I'm showing you is that you have Israelites that are sent away, that are cut off, And ultimately, the whole nation was cut off. In 70 AD, even the southern kingdom was cut off. The whole nation was cut off, northern kingdom and southern kingdom. But he gathers us back together. He brings us back, okay? Because this is all his plan, and it's all temporary. Then shall the sons of Judah, southern kingdom, and the sons of Israel, northern kingdom, be gathered together. Okay? But wait a minute, he sent them away. Okay? What does it say? I will utterly take them away. Okay? But now he's bringing them back, along with the southern kingdom as well. Okay? And appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up out of the land of America, Babylon the Great, the land, because this is where we're all gathered together. Okay, this is an end-time biblical prophecy that is in process of being fulfilled right now. The next thing up is for us to come up out of this land. That's deliverance and salvation, which is for who? The sons of Judah and the sons of Israel, the whole nation of Israel, both kingdoms, which are now one. Ezekiel 37. For great shall be the day of Jezreel, right? Jezreel, which is a name or title for the nation of Israel, which I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, the pronunciation would be Yazara'ala, Yazara'ala or Yazara'ala, one of the two, okay? Which it means seed of the Most High, seed of God, the sons of God. Makes sense, right? Yazara'ala, Jezreel, seed of God, okay? Sons of God, prince of the power, okay? Which is a name for Israel. We are the seed of the Most High. Okay? And that's what it means. Okay? And so those Israelites that are cut off, those Israelites that are sent away, those Israelites that are no longer his people, the plan is always to bring them back. And that takes us to Acts the 10th chapter, because that's what's happening here, back during the time of the apostles. Okay? The door is being opened up again for Israelites who have been cut off, for Israelites who have been estranged and alienated. Alienated meaning separated from the whole. Separated from the whole. Cut off, separated from the whole. Strangers to the commonwealth that they used to be part of. But now they're being brought back. That's what's happening with Cornelius. And we got yesterday verses 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's why Cornelius was of the Italian band, just simply because he was assigned there. It doesn't mean he was from Italy. Okay? Although you did have Israelites in Italy, you did have Israelites in it. If I can say that right. You did have Israelites in Italy, yes. So he might have been from there, but that doesn't mean he was from there at all. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. You have a so-called black man in Esau's military, and he gets sent on the other side of the planet, and he gets stationed over somewhere in Europe, and that doesn't mean he's from there. He said, "Yeah, I'm in this platoon, I'm in this regiment, I'm in this the 82nd Airborne. We're over in this that there in another city of Germany." And nobody says, "Well, you must be a German then." Nobody says that. Just because you're stationed there doesn't mean that that's where you come from. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but So just because he was of the Italian band doesn't mean he was Italian. Okay, he may have been from Italy. But if he was from Italy, he still was an Israelite, because you had Israelites all around. Okay? To the 12 tribes scattered abroad. Greetings, right? To the strangers, Israelites, scattered abroad, and he mentions all these different cities. So even if he was from Italy, he still was an Israelite. Okay? But there's no way to know he was from Italy, man. He was assigned there. Okay? And so, and only Israelites are devout. Only Israelites fear the Most High. Only Israelites give alms. Find me one precept where somebody's giving alms in the scriptures and it's a bona fide heathen. You ain't gonna find it. I already searched. So, I did not at all intend to be in that long, but let me make some progress here. I'm just gonna summarize this, right? And we're trying to get down. We got the Apostle Peter's vision here. Okay. Cornelius dispatches 3 servants, all right, to go and meet with the Apostle Peter and request his attendance, request him to come back with them, right? And, basically preach to Cornelius and the other Israelites that are there, right? But in the meantime, while they're on the way, Peter, the Apostle Peter, has a vision, and I'm just going to touch on it. We don't need, this is an aside, but I'm going to touch on it briefly. So that way when we come back next time, we can just dig back in with what pertains to the lesson series. Okay? All right, but he has this vision about the unclean beasts, right? And they're coming down, and he's told to arise, Peter, kill and eat. And he says, no, I don't eat anything unclean. And he's told that which the Most High is called clean, don't call, let no man call common. And it happens 3 times. That's what thrice means, right? Twice and thrice. Twice is 2, thrice is 3. Happens 3 times. And then if pagan Christians take this to mean that you can eat whatever you want now. Yeah, we know during the time of the Old Testament and everything. Now, is the law still applicable here? Okay? Is the law still, notice when you go to Acts the 21st chapter, the Apostle Paul is taking a vow before the Most High that he still keeps the law. Okay? All right? So how is it that all of a sudden it's good to eat, it's fine to eat unclean things? Somehow, some way, it's called wishful thinking. It's called believing what you want to believe. It's called, hearing what you want to hear. Okay? Because if this vision was that plain and obvious that it meant that you can now eat all manner of abomination and it's okay now, then why is the Apostle Peter pondering it? Do you have to ponder something that's obvious? No. You only have to ponder something if the meaning is deep or hidden, if the meaning is not clear. But the meaning, if it was meant to say that you can eat abominable foods, that's crystal clear. That's like what they call right on the nose, right? But that's not what it was saying at all. So those who take it to mean that, they are in gross error. Now, while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, and then later on, he tells you what it means. Later on, he tells you that it was a vision that meant that now the Most High was opening up the door for the Israelites that had been cut off, for the Israelites who are being called Greeks, for the Israelites who are being called Gentiles and foreigners and strangers and heathen. That's why I read the Hosea 1, 10 and 11. For those Israelites that were strangers from the covenant and the promises to now be brought back. That's what it meant. It had nothing to do with literal food. Nothing to do with literal food. Now, while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men, and that's the point, Peter was very perplexed. What's you perplexed about, Peter? What could the vision mean? Because it didn't mean what people take it to mean at all. It was not talking about that at all. Okay? And it's really, really stupid to think that it does, that it did mean that. Because all you got to do is read the whole chapter and it's obvious. And Peter tells you what it means. Okay? And you already know right here, because if it meant you can eat anything, then why is he perplexed? Why is he pondering it? Why is he not sure what it means if it means you can eat anything? Okay? It didn't mean that at all. Okay? All right, and so we're gonna pick it up down here next time. But let's bring let's drive that point home with a exclamation mark. Okay, let's go to Isaiah 66. For those of you who say no, I still think you can eat pork, shrimp, crab, lobster, catfish, rabbit. I still think you can eat duck, roast duck with the mango salsa. I still think you can eat all these. I still think I can eat whatever I want. You know? Okay, well, if that's the case, then what's stopping you from eating human flesh? Okay? You think so? Okay? Well, if that's the case, then why does... You tell me if you think this is you tell me what time period you think this prophecy is applicable to. Okay? You think this is something that's already been fulfilled? You think this is something that is about to be fulfilled? You think this is a prophecy that's already in the past? Or you think this is a prophecy that is an end-time biblical prophecy that's about to be fulfilled? You tell me. And if you give the correct answer to that, then then the next question is going to be, then how the hell is it all right to eat any abominable food you want? For behold, Yahweh will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. When has it been fulfilled? For by fire and by his sword will Yahweh, I think it's been fulfilled already. For by fire and by his sword will Yahweh plead with all flesh. All flesh. What does that mean? That means all flesh. That means the whole planet. All the heathen. When's this been fulfilled? By fire. When? It hasn't. It's about to be fulfilled. In this time. In your lifetime. Stop. Pause the video. Go look in the mirror. You're going to look just like that. If not exactly, pretty damn close. That's how close this is about to be fulfilled. You're going to, for all intents and purposes, look like you do right now. Hopefully you change your clothes. You might get a haircut. You might gain up a few pounds. You might lose a few pounds. Stuff like that. Inconsequential. You're going to look like that, like you do right now. That's how close it is. This is end-time biblical prophecy when our Father Yahweh is going to plead with all flesh. You know that has not been fulfilled. By fire. Okay? You might say, well, yes, he did it by water. This is by fire. For by fire and by his sword. This is the time of the second death, not the first. For by fire and by his sword will Yahweh plead with all flesh. No, it ain't been fulfilled yet, but it's about to be. And the slain of Yahweh shall be many. Why is he going to be killing so many people? They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree. Well, there's a lot of reasons. I'll tell you one of the biggest reasons is because of what they've done to his sons and his daughters, namely the Israelites, namely the so-called blacks, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians, as well as all the Israelites scattered abroad amongst the heathen nations to the four corners of the earth, no matter what they look like. Okay? So that's a big reason right there. Okay? Because he is very sore displeased with the heathen which are at ease. For he that touches you touches the apple of his eye. Zechariah 2:8 and Zechariah 1:14 and 15. Okay, so that's a big reason. Jeremiah 25:31, Isaiah 34:8. That's a big reason. That's probably the hugest reason, right? But there's another reason too. This is really getting into Israelites. Okay, they that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh. Now, if our Father Yahweh sent that crystal clear vision to Apostle Peter, telling him that he can eat whatever he wants to eat. Now he didn't want to eat that, but let's say he can eat anything now. Okay? And now that means that we all can just eat anything: pork, shrimp, crab, lobster, catfish, calamari, all matter, duck, whatever. Okay? Snake, lizards, we can just eat whatever, as long as it fits in the hole, right? If that's the case, then why is he coming back to kill people for eating swine's flesh? Why is Heavenly Father going to be killing people for eating abominations if it's okay to eat abominations? That's not fair. That's not just. That's not right. You're right. It isn't right, because you can't do that. Okay? You're right. It's not right. That's wrong. Okay? You cannot eat abominations. Clearly, our Father Yahweh is going to be, what's the word? Murking people for eating abominations. I don't know where they got that from, right? And the abomination, no, you cannot eat abominations. And the mouse shall be consumed together, saith Yahweh. So when we go back over here, I just wanted to point that out. This had nothing to do, this vision that the Apostle Peter had nothing to do with eating abominations at all. What did it have to do with then, Raab? It had to do with the Most High making clear to the Apostle Peter that he was opening up the doors of repentance to Israelites that had been cut off. It was preparing him for his encounter with Cornelius. Okay, the unclean beasts represented Israelites who were estranged from the Father, Israelites who were living like the heathen. It represented heathen Israelites, heathen of the Israelite variety. Okay, heathen that were actually Israelites by lineage, by heritage, by bloodline, by birth, and they were unclean. And they were common because they were acting like the heathen. They were steeped in the ways of the heathen. They were unrecognizable. Even though they're Israelites, they were unrecognizable as Israelites. You look at them, they look like heathen. You listen to them talk, they talk like heathen. You look at how they dress like heathen. You look at how they living like heathen. You look at what gods they're worshiping the gods of the heathen. That's why they were represented as unclean and common beasts. The vision had to do with salvation being opened up to those Israelites who were living like the heathen as long as they were willing to repent. That's what it had to do with. And it prepared Peter for Cornelius, his encounter with Cornelius. And so we're going to pick it up here at 10 and 21 next time. And we're going to get as much of this chapter as the Spirit has us get. Okay? So we'll pick back up at like 21 next time. Yahweh Hasad, this is edifying. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Before I do, I want to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shabbat, Rechak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone. Much peace, love, and respect to the brothers teaching, pushing this truth out the four corners of the earth. Adwan Radazad, this lesson was edifying and encouraging to you, Achim, and any Achwaf that may be listening and or watching. Ayashmi Akunah, Azayim Lashemai Shemai. Let him who has ears to hear. Kwam Yasharala, Baba Kosha, Abad, Baba, Etha, will call Adawam. Shalom Lahabachayim, Shalom.